If you ever check into a hotel and they give you room 307, leave immediately. Don't ask questions, don't wait for a refund. Just walk out, because I didn't and I'm not sure I ever really left. Before we continue, subscribe and like this video, because the story you're about to hear gets worse the longer you stay. It was supposed to be a one-night stay. Cheap hotel, quiet area. Nothing unusual. The receptionist barely looked at me when I checked in, but when she handed me the key, she hesitated. Her fingers were cold, like they'd been soaking in stagnant pond water, and her eyes were fixed on a point just over my left shoulder. "Room 307, she said, her voice dropping into a register that made the hair on my arm stand up. "If you hear anything, don't respond." I laughed it off. That was my first mistake. I thought it was a gimmick, a bit of local legend to spice up a boring corridor. When I entered the room, everything looked normal, but the air felt heavy, like it was saturated with the breath of 1,000 people who had stayed there before me. I noticed the paper on the bedside table. It wasn't hotel branded. It looked handwritten, old, and the ink seemed to pulse with a dark, oily sheen. It looked like someone had rewritten it multiple times, their hand growing more frantic with every iteration. At the top it said, "Rules for staying in room 307. I should have ignored it. Instead, I read. The rules were simple but wrong. Rule 1. Do not turn off the bathroom light. Rule 2. If you hear knocking, check the time before responding. If it's between 3 to 3:30 a.m., do not open the door. Rule 3. If the mirror looks different, avoid eye contact. Rule 4. If you hear your name, it's not for you. Rule 5. Leave before the second night." At the bottom, in a scratchy, desperate scrawl that looked like it had been carved into the paper with a fingernail, it said, "I didn't." If you're still here, comment 307 and like the video. Trust me, you'll want to remember this number. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched the shadows. Rule 1 was already playing with my mind. The bathroom light cast a long, sickly yellow rectangle across the carpet, but as I watched, the shape began to distort, pulling itself into a long, thin needle that pointed directly at the wardrobe. Everything was fine until 3:12 a.m. I woke up to knocking, soft at first, like a polite guest who had lost their way. Then it became louder, more aggressive, the wood of the door vibrating with a force that seemed impossible for a human hand. I checked the clock at 3:12. My chest tightened. My heart was a frantic bird trapped in my ribs. I remembered the rules. Do not open the door. The knocking stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was even worse, a thick, pressurized void. Then a voice came through the wood, thin and reedy. "Room service," but I hadn't ordered anything. Then it said my name. It didn't just say it, it whispered it with the intimacy of a lover and the coldness of a butcher. I stayed silent, burying my face in the pillow, trying to drown out the sound of the handle rattling. That's when the bathroom light flickered. Rule 1, do not turn it off. But it turned off on its own, a sharp click echoing in the dark. The room went pitch black, and then I saw movement in the mirror. Something was standing behind me in the reflection, a tall, distorted shape with limbs that were too long for the ceiling height. But when I turned around, nothing was there. The room was empty, yet I could feel the temperature dropping, the air smelling of ozone and wet copper. I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the corner with my back to the wall, watching the grey light of dawn filter through the heavy curtains. Morning came and everything looked normal again. The television was just a black screen. The carpet was just beige fabric. I packed my things, my hands shaking so hard I could barely zip my suitcase. I was ready to leave, but as I reached the door, I noticed something. The paper on the table had changed. There was a new rule added to the bottom, the ink still wet. If you see yourself leaving, don't follow. My heart dropped through the floor, because at that exact moment, I heard the door open behind me. Not the door to the hallway, but the wardrobe door. If this is getting to you, hit subscribe right now, because it only gets worse from here. I don't remember deciding to stay. I remember reaching for the handle of the hallway door, but my hand felt like it belonged to someone else. I felt a weight in my pocket, and when I pulled it out, it was the brass key for 307, only now it was hot to the touch. Somehow I was still sitting on the bed. The sun outside didn't move. It stayed in that permanent bruised twilight. That night I didn't wait for 3:00 a.m. The knocking started earlier, louder, more desperate. It sounded like bones hitting the wood. And then something started crawling under the door. Not a hand, not a shadow. It was a fluid, dark substance that moved like hair submerged in water, spreading across the carpet toward my feet. I watched as the floorboards began to weep a thick, salty brine, and the wallpaper started to breathe in time with my own panicked gasps. The mirror cracked suddenly, a jagged lightning bolt of silver, and in it I saw myself. I was standing inside the reflection, looking out at the room. The version of me in the mirror was smiling, a wide, terrifying grin that reached his ears, but the teeth were too numerous, rows of sharp, polished ivory. But I wasn't smiling. I was screaming without a sound. It raised its hand and pointed at the door. The knocking stopped, complete silence. Then the handle slowly turned. I ran. I don't remember how I got out, or if the door I went through was even the door to the hotel. I ran until my lungs burned in a smear of grey and purple. I made it to the street, the cold night air hitting my face. I was breathing, I was alive, or so I thought, because when I checked my phone to call for help, the date was wrong. It didn't say the next day. It said day 2, and in my camera roll there was a video I don't remember taking. It was a recording of me standing in the center of room 307, perfectly still, watching the door, waiting for someone to come in. The video showed me turning toward the camera at the very end and whispering the rules to someone who wasn't there. If you made it this far, subscribe, share this video, and turn on notifications, because some places don't let you leave. They just fold you into the walls until you become part of the rules. I looked up from my phone and realized the street was empty. No cars, no people, just endless rows of hotel doors lining the sidewalk, all of them labeled 307. I tried to walk away, but every corner I turned led me back to the same lobby, back to the same receptionist with the cold fingers and the empty eyes. She didn't look up when I approached. She just reached into her drawer and pulled out a fresh sheet of paper. "Have you forgot Rule 9?" she whispered. I looked down at the paper. Rule 9. The guest in 307 must never look at their own shadow. I looked down at the floor and there it was. My shadow wasn't attached to my feet. It was standing at the edge of the room holding a shovel, and it was already starting to dig. The soil under the floorboards is damp and red, and it smells like something that hasn't seen the sun in 1,000 years. I'm sitting on the bed now, writing this on the back of the rules. The clock is counting backward again. 59. The knocking is about to start, and this time I think I'm the one who has to do the knocking. I can feel the salt forming on my eyelashes, and my skin is beginning to feel like old handwritten paper. If you hear someone whispering your name through a wooden door tonight, remember Rule 4. It isn't for you, but you're for it. The handle is turning now, and I can see the person on the other side. They look just like I did when I first checked in. They look like they're ready to laugh it off. I want to tell them to run, but my voice has turned into a low-frequency hum that only makes the windows spiderweb. I am the silence in the room. I am the scratch inside the wardrobe. I am room 307, and I've been waiting for you to check in. The television is flickering to life now, showing a live feed of you watching this video. I'm standing right behind you, in the reflection of your screen. Don't turn around. Just stay until the end. Just stay forever. The red clay is calling, and the architecture of the quiet is finally complete. Welcome home. I watched the new guests set their bag down. They didn't notice the backwards clock. They didn't see me crouching in the corner, my body flattened against the floral patterns of the wall. I saw them pick up the paper. I saw the confusion cross their face as they read the first 5 rules. They looked toward the bathroom, where the light was still on, humming with that same sick vibration. Rule 10 was one I hadn't read before. It was carved into the headboard of the bed, hidden by the pillow. Rule 10, if the previous guest offers you a hand, take it. It's the only way for them to go home. I reached out, my fingers long and grey and smelling of the quarry, and I touched their shoulder. They didn't scream. They just turned around, and for a second I saw my own face in their eyes, the face I had before the room took it. They reached out to take my hand, and for a fleeting moment I felt the warmth of a real human pulse. But as our fingers locked, the salt on my skin began to migrate to theirs. Their eyes began to cloud with static. I felt myself growing lighter, the purple sky finally beginning to fade into a true morning. But as I stepped toward the door, I heard the click. The handle didn't turn. I looked back and saw the new guest sitting where I had sat, their hands cupping their eyes, peering into the wardrobe where a dark, narrow staircase had just appeared. They weren't leaving, and neither was I. We are just layers now, pages in the same handwritten book. If you ever find a tooth with the number 307 carved into it, know that I'm still here, tracing the baseboards, waiting for the humming to reach the right note. The shadows are counting us now. 1, 2, 3, and soon there will be you. Don't open the door, don't turn off the light. But most importantly, don't believe you've left. The street outside is just another hallway, and the sun is just a bulb that hasn't flickered yet. Stay quiet. Listen to the breathing in the walls. That's me, that's us. That's room 307.